Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday in happy August. I know the summer is flying by. I can't believe it's August already, halfway through it. So, hope everybody's had good fair seasons and state fair and all that, and you're kind of getting gearing up for the new 4-H year, which is right around the corner. Today, we're just really excited to have Brianna Kaiser with us today. But I want to do a little commercial for our next webinar Wednesday. It's going to be 2 weeks from today. And Rochelle Veteran is going to be doing one. It's two for the price of one. She's going to be talking about the volunteer handbook that's brand new that's coming out, and also the 4-H County Ambassador Advisory Handbook. So going through both of those in 2 weeks and kind of showing you the highlights of that, how to use that, how to get that in the hands of your volunteers, parts to use, and how you can just train your volunteers and what parts and she's going to point out different parts to you. So that's really exciting. That's coming up. I'll send out an announcement about that today. So just get that on your calendar for 2 weeks from today on our next webinar Wednesday. So right now, I just want to welcome Brianna Kaiser from Dickey County, and she's going to be talking about working with high school age youth, pretty much grades 9 through 12, about how to keep them engaged and retain them in our 4-H programs. And this is the third part of a series that we've had that she and Scott and also Rebecca attended a virtual academy earlier this year, and this is their share out portion. So we've heard from Scott about Clover Buds, we've heard from Rebecca about junior high youth, and now Brianna is going to talk to us about working with those youth that are grades 9 through 12. So I'm going to turn it over to Brianna.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm happy to kind of visit with you guys today about our older youth. I'm going to go ahead and just share my presentation real quick. Perfect. I hope everyone can see that. So today I want to share with you my portion that I kind of focused on, or I guess I honed in on when we were a part of this academy, was engaging our teens. It's kind of been a focus the last year that I've been working with the teens in my county specifically, trying to get them more engaged, trying to meet some of their needs. And it was a really great opportunity to learn more about that. So I'm going to take you guys through that today. A little bit about it is we're going to do a little bit of looking back on kind of where the teens are right now and their development. And that includes like their brain development, and then especially those strategies for retention and empowering them to stay within the 4-H program, and a little bit on, because they did talk some of the components on the Beyond Ready that we've been talking about all year too, components for our teens. So first and foremost is the youth development models. I know Scott shared this, and these have been shared quite a bit, but I do want to kind of highlight it to kind of continue on with that, and kind of how with our Thrive model, how the foundations of the young adult models kind of matches that, reflects that a little bit, and is just a little bit of a different look for a youth development model. So this was the overall map. I know there's bits and pieces shared, but this is what the whole thing looked like. And since I'm the final piece, this is the final view of it. But I am focusing on basically that high school age, the 9th grade through 12th grade. And I kept in the young adults, that 19 through 22 as the young adults they are, that we're trying to actually work towards and build towards them. I am outside giving the presentation, so if the wind takes my stuff, please bear with me. But by the time we start working with our youth and they're reaching that high school age, their self-concept is really starting to be shifted from focusing mainly on what their peers think and how they should be with their peers, to becoming much more individualized and much more on a personal level. So they really start taking a look at their inner self and who they are and what makes them unique and where they're going to fit into the bigger picture of life. And during this stage where they're about right here, it's marked by a lot deeper thinking. They start kind of exploring values and principles, such as like, what does fairness look like? What does justice look like? What is that service piece that we put into 4-H, and the caring for others? And many start asking really big questions about their place in the world. What do they want to do when they're older? What's their impact in life? And then kind of what are they going to do in the future? I know they get asked that question a lot, so it comes up quite a bit. And then they start also thinking about themselves and refining their sense of identity. They'll start looking back on what their experiences have been, who their relationships have been with, and their opportunities that are going to allow them to take on more of those much more meaningful roles. And for 4-H, for us, it's a great opportunity to offer programming that's not only going to reflect their individuality, but it's going to challenge them to really live out their values in ways, and that's going to benefit them in future pathways. And with that comes our lovely Thrive model. When we start looking at engaging them in 4-H, we get the opportunity to start thinking about not just offering more activities, but making those activities really speak to that individual on who they are, what they care about, and then help them with those values that they are forming. So first, when we're thinking of programming, and specifically towards our teens, we want to create some type of identity affirming opportunities. So our diverse programming, project areas, and experiences are going to have more of a reflection on specifically them, so their backgrounds, what their specific interests are, and something that's going to be unique more to what that identity is that they are kind of building themselves. And they want to see themselves in the program. If they see themselves in that program and a part of it, they're more likely to stay engaged. And with that, I know we work a lot with our youth, so some examples would be leadership and giving them a voice, and not just a voice, but hearing their voice. I feel sometimes they don't feel like they're heard. We know that they have their spark, and now they're really starting to cultivate that spark into a really, really strong passion. So us helping them take that passion to that next level of a service project would be one ways to kind of help them kind of build up that identity affirming look. Next, we really want to start connecting those activities to that real world issue. We might not think it sometimes, but the teens are actually paying attention. They know what's happening in their schools, in their communities, sometimes even in their world. And us helping them link their 4-H work to those causes and challenges that mean something to them is going to also keep them more involved in the 4-H program. And then finally, encouraging them to take reflection on their values. If we get them into their leadership roles and their service projects and make it intentional to have discussions, this gives them a chance to explore what matters to them more and how they are making that impact. So taking that step back after, say, they do a service project and just having a debrief on why was this important, what did they get out of it, and what did they learn from it, is another way to kind of keep them involved. This part I really geeked out about. I guess I really like to understand how things work. So learning more about brain development and what's going on kind of really piques my interest. So during the adolescence period, it's the time for absolutely incredible brain growth. This is only second to what's happening to them in early childhood. So the teenage brain is highly adaptable. It has a lot of neural connections that are being strengthened or even pruned a little bit, depending on how those connections are being used. So it's really being molded. And then their prefrontal cortex, so that's the part of the brain where decision making, planning, and self-regulation, it's really developing, and that goes all the way into the mid-20s. So that's why I kind of left that early adulthood step into that model. But at the same time, their amygdala is tied to their emotions and reactions, and it's very active. This is why teens feel so strongly, so much. Their emotions are so intense, and they're very sensitive to that peer feedback. And so for 4-H, it's actually a really unique opportunity for us because we can provide that safe space for teens to take healthy risks. We can put them into new roles that are going to stretch their skills, and we can really challenge them in a supportive environment so they can kind of fail safely, learn from that opportunity, and continue on from that while developing critical thinking and kind of some self-management skills that they can really carry on into adulthood. And with that, brain development goes into kind of helping them thrive. And there's some certain ways to support doing that. There is a lot of connection between all of these with our teens. And one of the most powerful ways to engage teens is by creating, like I said, that safe risk-taking environment. We do this already. We got competitions like our public speaking events. We have a lot of great travel experiences for our North Dakota teens, the big thing is I think there might need to be a little bit more of a push to get them outside their comfort zone, but still giving them that safety net of having supportive adults and peers behind them. Definitely, I think finding teens to step outside of their comfort zone is probably the more challenging thing when working with them. We do it already. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it too, but encouraging to take on those leadership roles. They get to really practice and work on their real decision making and not just carrying out a plan. I know on the bigger level, we want them to be ambassadors because that's a great leadership role. It's a little bit more responsibility. But we want them, even if it's a small role, it allows those teens to kind of look at a plan, and instead of just carrying out what the adult told me to do, they create it from A to Z. So they create the plan, they execute the plan, and this builds their confidence. Again, that critical thinking that they are currently growing and developing, but it gives them a sense of ownership in the program and what they are doing. Also is, and I'm going to talk more on this, is supportive relationships. We've all heard this. This was really, really highlighted in the academy on the importance of this and why teens need to have that caring adult. This is parents, volunteers, agents, coaches, leaders. It's just an adult who believes in them and helps them. It really helps that teen learn how to handle stress and how to handle any type of setbacks. And then finally, we want them to experience and help them clarify what those values and goals are that they're developing themselves for a more positive identity and discover their sense of meaning and purpose within the program. So like I said, I want to talk more on the relationships. This was highlighted quite a bit, and I kind of took a moment to myself to reflect on this when they talked about this as working with teens. But the healthy relationships are one of the strongest protective factors that we can offer teens. It helps reduce the likelihood of any kind of negative outcomes, and these look like the risky behaviors, disengaging from school, mental health problems. Having a supportive, healthy relationship enhances a teen's well-being, their resilience, and it allows them to really grow into the individual that they can be. This was a really great developmental relationship framework graphic that they shared with us that kind of highlights 5 elements that's expressed in like 20 actions, and kind of to keep in mind when we're working on enhancing those relationships with our youth. So the first one, expressing care. You just showing teens that they truly matter. It can happen in many variety of ways. As we've said, we're going to challenge them to grow by setting up expectations and helping them stretch. So again, a goal they can achieve, but they have to kind of work for. We provide support, and I think this is the biggest one, by guiding them without taking control. I find personally this one a little bit hard because providing the support, but getting them to do it, it usually feels like a little bit sometimes the adults end up taking control so the job gets done. But I just think our youth sometimes don't feel comfortable taking it on because they've never had to do it before. Sharing power by giving them a voice in the decisions, and like I said, listening to them as well. And then expanding the possibilities by opening doors and new opportunities and networks. We all know what those opportunities are in networks. We've kind of experienced them, been around, you heard about them, and obviously our teens aren't going to know that. So we have that unique ability to kind of show them what those can be. And with that, I'm going to invite you guys to kind of take a moment, reflect yourself. If you want to write this down on a piece of paper, throw it in the chat, open your mic. But I just kind of want you guys to think, when you're working with teens or adolescents, which elements show up the most in your work and which ones might need a little bit more nurturing? And I'll kind of share with you guys mine. So I see probably a lot of this year especially, I worked on the shared power and the providing support, at least with my ambassadors. I've got 6 of them that I kind of push them a little bit to kind of take on that responsibility role. And like I said, the provide support, it's been like pulling teeth a little bit to get them to make decisions and make plans on what they're doing for their activities that they were in charge of. And then expanding the possibilities is somewhere else so I could work a little bit. I was focused a little bit more on getting them to kind of take the ball and run with it this year. So does anyone else have any other thoughts on like where they work the most and maybe where they there could be a little bit more work to it.
I think for me, the challenge to growth is the most natural or the easiest area. I often would write personal notes to 4-Hers asking them to consider joining certain activities that they might have. Probably sharing power is the most difficult, the difficult one. Maybe
Thank you, Jeff.
I think it won't get done. So
Thanks for sharing, Jeff. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Anyone else want to open up? If not, I'll keep on going. Oh, we got some chats. Okay, so agreements with Jeff. Yeah, and I think there's a little bit, you got to be a little bit intentional about it too. That's what I try to do this year working with the youth, is being very intentional about things. Or at least the teens. Another chat.
Sabrina, I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Julianne.
Hi, I got on a little bit late, so I apologize. When you say express care, is that the adults are showing that we care about the youth, or that we are trying to guide the youth to be more caring toward others?
A bit of both. So this is that relationship building part about between you and a teen. So it would be showing that you care about them and their growth. But also I find it's very important too, just to share with the youth that you express care to others. And that's the part that they're building, is that fairness and that self-worth, and working with others too.
Okay, that's probably then what I would see as, I guess, my biggest flag, because I find a lot of times that the youth are, they're not forward thinking, right? They don't anticipate other people's needs, and they only do what you ask them to do.
I think that's definitely going to be an individual experience, too. I guess I see a lot of our teens helping. It might not be like a really caring thing, but like helping, especially those younger youth. They'll kind of step out and do that. So I see it expressed a little bit of a different way. But that's also me hiding like behind the backgrounds, watching them, with not them knowing I'm watching them, kind of thing, just to see how they interact with each other. Thanks for sharing, Julianne.
Thank you.
So when we're working with teens, it's really important to know for our teens, purpose is one of the most powerful drivers of motivation during this time. So our high school youth, they're looking for a goal, or a short-term interest right now. It's more than that. It's something that they want to endure, something that they want to grow. Even if they don't know about it, it might not be in the forefront, but that is something that they're kind of looking for. They're trying to connect to those values that are forming within them. So it's always important that it also has, and here you go, Julianne, that you kind of help them with that beyond self-focus. Like you said, you feel like they're a little bit more internalized, worrying about just themselves, but there is that piece of you help them beyond themselves and continue to grow there. And it's about helping them make that contribution to that greater good. So as a relationship and as agents in 4-H, we kind of help them with that. They're developing it, and some of them do it naturally, but helping them continue to develop that. And for us in 4-H, it really matters because our teens have a strong sense of purpose. If they do, they're going to be more engaged in the program. They're going to be more persistent if they have a challenge arise, and they're going to also be more resilient to get that challenge solved. And as we all seen, I'm sure we've all seen this. I know I've seen this quote, but 4-H has shown, research has shown that 4-H youth are 2.3 times more likely to have a strong sense of purpose. And because of this, we need to continue to foster helping them connect their sparks. I will say as teens, they found their sparks. They know what their sparks are. It's kind of grown into a bit of a fire, and we need to help them with connecting that passion into real world causes. So leadership opportunities, decision-making opportunities, just encouraging them to kind of look into that, reflect on it, and it'll help prepare them for success in the future. And they'll also feel a sense of fulfillment with that because their purpose has been met. So now the piece I think we were all kind of interested in, this was definitely a piece that caught my attention when we were doing the academy, was the strategies to retain and empower our teens. So our high school teens, these are our 3 biggest challenges. If there's any more, someone could please share, but I think we all agree. The very first one is competing demands. Our teens are incredibly busy, so we are competing as 4-H programs with sports, academics, jobs, other activities, and our teens are balancing very full schedules, probably more full than they've ever been as a young person. And most of the time, they do have to make tough choices about where they are going to invest their time. And unfortunately, I've experienced as 4-H is the one that gets cut, that they won't do it, they don't have time for it because the activities that they feel more strongly with, that they want to be involved in, is directly tied to specifically short-term goals and immediate gratification of what they're doing now. Remember, their brain is still forming, so they don't see like, okay, if I'm in 4-H, here's the long-term benefits. Right now, I'm playing sports. I'm in school. I like doing the sports. I'm with my friends. We're trying to win state. So right then and there, I mean, that's part of, I think, being a teen a little bit too, but trying to work around that is a big challenge. I know for me, I lose a lot of kids in certain judging programs because I can't beat out the sports. So how do we kind of meet them where they're at? Another one is sometimes teens feel like they're irrelevant in the program. It's what we're offering maybe as program days, project area days, things like that might not connect with their passions anymore, might not connect with what their career goals are or even what their values are going to be. So they're going to disengage. They don't want to be there. It's nothing that interests them. And this is especially true when teens feel that a lot of the programming is geared more towards the younger members. So kind of that middle school age rather than them and what they're growing into be. And then the last one is the lack of decision-making power. I think, and I have seen this in meetings, if teens feel they're just along for the ride, like I'm just here, I'm supposed to be here, but I'm not actually running the club meeting like they're supposed to do. They don't get to help steer the ship in a way, so they're less likely to stay because why should they have to be there and waste their time? So youth leadership has to be more than just a title. Just because you're saying you're the president of the club, they have to have some real influence, giving them real responsibility and having them feel like they have ownership in where the program is going. I will say a challenge with this one is when they are at some meetings, especially like your county council meetings, just getting them to talk. I think it's just an intimidation factor with all these adults that are talking and throwing around ideas, but getting youth to feel comfortable enough to talk with the decision, but then letting them see that their decision is heard and we did what they wanted to do. But I have seen that both ways. So these are definitely challenges. If anyone else has another one about retention that they see, these were kind of the ones that stood out to me that got highlighted that I've seen too in my own county. So with retention, this graphic is really nice because it really takes a look at the visual between both what the adults want to provide in a 4-H program and what the youth want to gain during the 4-H program. And as you can see on the left is our adults and the right is the youth. But notice the significant overlap right in the center. We do see that the values are similar. They kind of want the same things. So our jobs, I feel, our jobs as 4-H professionals and volunteers is to operate and try to hit that overlapping middle section. So when we're designing programs, keeping in mind that we need to meet the youth where they are now while still guiding them towards the skills and experiences and values that they want for future. But at the same time, also making sure our volunteers are doing what they want to do to provide for that youth. So we have that overlap and just kind of a thing to maybe visually see. We all might have known, but visually see it too to remind ourselves, but definitely to help our youth as well. Another thing when it comes to retention and empowering our youth is giving them more than just tasks. So how do we create those opportunities for leaderships and giving them a voice and an ownership in the program? So first, giving them a meaningful role. So what does this look like? It can be something as easy as just having a youth-led committee, something maybe small to start out with, like an event planning team, but letting them take it on, design the project, and just letting them see their ideas come to life. And what they'll feel like, because I invested my time, I saw the program actually do it, and the program's going to grow. They're going to just feel invested and want to stay. Next is we need to have them be part of that shared decision making. Like they said, they don't feel like they get to be a part of it. So I know this ladder of youth participation, it's Heart's ladder. Scott shared it in his Cloverbud presentation, and it was very detailed. He had all the little notes. I kind of gave the snapshot version of it. But I have seen it. I've been asked as an agent to have teens be on different advisory boards, and they kind of get stuck in that tokenism slot where we just want a youth on our board to say we have a youth on our board, but the youth doesn't do anything. They don't have any responsibilities. They don't take on a role, but we want to move them up that ladder all the way up to that youth initiated, shared with adults part, so that way the youth feel like they're helping shape a program. If they're going to the meetings and they're being a part of it, they want to be part of that decision making. We talked about it. Third, to empower that youth is developing those relationships. They really will kind of grow within themselves if they have the support of a good relationship. You build that strong communication piece, which builds trust and builds confidence, and it allows them to kind of be a little bit more bold and take some steps outside of that comfort zone that we want them to do. Next, we talked about purpose-driven projects, the important part of purpose within 4-H, and making sure that if we can, we connect activities teens are a part of to causes that they care about. They're going to bring more passion and commitment to it if they care about what they are doing. An example with this one this year is we did a camp, and I did whatever I could to push those youth that it was for livestock. It was their livestock area. I put them in it and gave them a leadership and teaching role, and that was their thing. So they had that purpose and was driven, and they were very committed in there and did a great job working with the younger youth. The final part is coming with, I think this hits that first challenge of how busy our youth are, is having flexible engagement. I don't really know what this looks like quite yet for at least my county, but some of the suggestions were maybe offering hybrid meeting options. If the youth are busy and they can't get to the location for the club meeting, do you do a hybrid meeting? Having short-term projects, something they can jump in, help with, do the project, and then get on to their next thing. And then like micro volunteering, makes it easier to kind of deal with their really busy schedules. It keeps them involved, but they don't have to sacrifice their other commitments. I know how busy some of the youth are in my county. I don't know how to make that work, but it's something to really think about. I know I'm very flexible on, I ask the ambassadors to be there to do a role, but at the same time, I know they've been working weeks and weeks and weeks in another spot for the same event. So I don't, I kind of give them a little bit of grace because I know they're still helping, but in a different aspect. So these are some strategies to think about and maybe implement when we're working with our teens. That's going to help them stay engaged in the programming. Another big piece, since Rochelle's going to have this too, so she might talk about this with the volunteers, but I know there's trainings out there about this, but working with our volunteers for that engagement, working specifically with that teens will help with retention. So we know our volunteers are our front lines. They're always out there. And when teens are working with these volunteers and they're feeling seen and valued a little bit, they're going to have some challenges. They're going to be happier to go to those meetings. So one thing is with our training is helping our volunteers just understand the development stages of where our teens are. And I think the big thing is helping our volunteers learn how to help teens explore their identity and what that looks like when they're doing a meeting for tailoring an opportunity towards more of a teen member than maybe a middle school member. Next, Jeff, you said it. How do you model shared power? this is a thing that's hard to see too, when the adults just kind of take over and do it just to get it done, because the adults are busy too and they want to get back to their lives and other things they've got going on. But letting them know that if a teen says something in a meeting, giving them a real voice and letting them make that club decision and move on. And I know in our policy, that's a big piece of talking about. It has to be in the meeting and discussed with the club, and the kids have to decide on it and vote on it, and making that part of that decision making instead of just having the parents run the meeting and the kids just sit there again as that token person. Next is mentorship opportunities. This was one that was highlighted, but it's also been brought up to me in my county, is our older youth want to mentor the younger youth. So they want to be paired with the younger members, and it's a nice, easy way to have a leadership role. It's going to boost that older youth's confidence, and it's going to strengthen their connection, because they're going to want to stay in the program to see how well their mentee is going to grow. And it also creates a really cool bridge, because it's going to have those younger members envision themselves as being older and being a mentor for someone else. And I have been asked about that. I don't know how to do it because I've got way younger members versus the older teens. So I don't know how to partner up and make that mentorship stuff work quite yet, but it's definitely an area that I'm willing to explore more with for our teens. And then the next one is the parent engagement. This can't be overlooked. Again, the one challenge is that we've probably all heard is the kids get dropped off and it's like you're the babysitter for the day for the club meeting. But encouraging our volunteers to build the relationships with the families, that's going to help gain a little bit of insight into that teenager's life. So you'll know about their really busy schedules and what they're a part of. It's going to give you a kind of a little bit of an inside look on what their interests really are, and maybe what is the barrier that they don't want to participate anymore. And those parents can help you find solutions. And parents are also really good if that teen seems to be changing or evolving, or, maybe one day they came and they're bubbly and they're participating and they're in it, and the next time they come, they're quiet and closed off and don't want to engage. And maybe the parents can kind of help figure out what's going on and help that teen through that little bit of a challenge. I know we got great trainings out there for our volunteers. It's just kind of highlighting that our volunteers learn about it and keep it in mind when they are working with those older teens. We're all very familiar with this, I believe, because Beyond Ready has been talked about now for over a year. It's really highlighted in the academy as well, especially for the teens, but making sure we have a strong foundation. All of this stuff was highlighted throughout this entire presentation I shared with you guys, but helping those teens identify and nurture that spark that they've already got. It's going to continuously build that sense of belonging for positive relationships, part of the 4-H program, and just being part of all of it, and foster an engagement. So they stay involved, they have meaning to what they're doing. It's going to lay that groundwork to keep them motivated and moving forward. We already do quite a bit of this, helping them with that work readiness. It means giving continuously and maybe giving new opportunities to develop their leadership roles at critical thinking, adaptability, technology skills. I saw Margot on here, because that's an ever evolving thing and they need to kind of stay on the forefront of that. And this gives them credentials that they can use in real world experiences, but they can also take and use that towards like resume building and things like that they can use for those future careers. I think 4-H does a great job already with life readiness, but teens need a growth mindset. They need strong pro-social skills. So they need that bit of a challenge to help navigate challenges, but also strengthen that sense of identity and purpose that they're really doing. And this can be seen by exploring pathways into college, the career services. I know there's always so much offered out there that it's hard to for a teen to swallow and where to kind of look at. But all of this stuff is going to give our teens a really good preparation for the next step of where they're going to be going from that that adolescent phase into that young adulthood. So there was these few immersive sessions. These happened in May, so it was a little bit after the actual initial academy. They all kind of focused around a little bit of the same thing. As you see, it's life and career building, college readiness, career readiness, so really that Beyond Ready thing that I just talked about. I am not going to go through all of these. If any of these really pique your interest, please ask me and I'm happy to share with you. But like, I know like the one when we were talking about sparks, the 4-H metalworking, that was in like Arizona, and they were taking their welding and metal arts and using it for that life readiness skills and what they can take from that. Like it was pretty much like, if you really like doing this, how would this look like in a business aspect? The three that caught my attention and highlighted because they were a little bit similar were the college readiness sessions, and they stemmed a little bit from like the first one. They were kind of in order of how they presented, was College 101, Surviving to Thriving. This was looking at those first generation college students, those incoming freshmen. What does the college experience look like? How do you prepare for college? Where do you go on campus? We all know once you go to college, it's a whole new world. You're completely independent for the first time. Helping these young adults know it's important to not skip class and go to class, and the consequences of not going to class looks like this. Where do you go if you need counseling, maybe financial help? How do you work with your professors? So it's just helping them learn how to deal with college. The camp to campus I really thought about too was, for this example, it was a natural resource camp, but they had the natural resource from their college. They had the students and professors there being a part of it. So again, that networking opportunity, and those youth got to explore what your options are maybe in the natural resource kind of project area and where that career could go. The Exploring College and Career Readiness, this one was a lot bigger. So they called it the Ohio 4-H Spark Expo, where they had like a really big opportunity for kids to come in and explore just not only the Spark and project areas, but the colleges, what the college majors are, what they had to offer, what the career readiness was, and what it looks like for that specific career. So it's a little bit of a broad one. And if you guys have any questions regarding any of these sessions, I'm happy to share more with you. I'm kind of have little just summaries of each of them, but I'm happy to share with you kind of the material and connect you with the presenter and things like that if you wanted to learn more. Otherwise, it's kind of to the point, quick to the point. Anyone have any questions? I can stop sharing. I can see everybody. Always thank you guys for the time. If you guys have any questions, or if you have questions later, you can always reach out to me by email or phone, and I'm happy to visit.
So Brianna, I have one question. So what do you think that we can do, like as a statewide effort, to keep youth that are 9th through 12th grade retained and involved?
Well, I think we're already kind of heading that direction with that, connecting those project areas to what that career could be, and kind of looking at that. Because I mean, if you look at, we'll just say like the natural resource one, there's so many different avenues you can go with that I just don't think youth are aware of, and just knowing that. So I think we're already kind of heading in that direction, but just offering that to them. And then just as we're developing a program of keeping, I guess when I think of programs, I'm guilty of it. I think of the younger middle school kids, because that's the biggest age group I've got. So doing a different project area, maybe specifically for those teens, would help. And just, I'm trying to think of it too on the county level, but how do you help them network? And with their schedules, it's hard. How do you get them to go to that event that would be really beneficial to them when they're so busy?
Well, it's good to know that you think we're heading in the right direction. So that's good with the career piece. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, it's been the discussion. I think
Yeah.
we're trying to get there. Like, we're aware of it and heading that way.
Was anybody else have any questions or comments or share anything on their counties that you're doing? Okay, well, I don't see in the chat or anything, but thanks everybody for attending today. And don't forget, 2 weeks from now, Rochelle's going to be doing a webinar 2 for the price of 1. You're going to hear about the volunteer handbook, which is brand new, and revisions that have taken place in the county 4-H ambassador advisor handbook as well. So she'll be walking through those with you and showing you highlights of that and how you can use those 2 pieces of resources that we have out. So have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.